Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to the Jerusalem Center for Foreign Affairs War Room Update. We are on day number 297 of the war with Gaza, day number 296 of the war with Lebanon, and the fighting carries on raging on all fronts. In Gaza, the IDF forces are continuing to operate on the ground in the south, in the north, in the middle of Gaza, still confronting the Hamas terrorists there, still eliminating the leadership, still trying to find all of those hostages who were taken and are still being held by Hamas, 115 in number since the October 7 massacre. In Judea and Samaria, the terrorism is also raging on. It's the same terrorist organizations that are operating in Gaza: Hamas, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, the Popular Front for Liberation of Palestine, the Al-Aqsa Martyr Brigades. All of those terrorist organizations that operate in Gaza operate also in Judea and Samaria and are trying all the time to carry out more and more terrorist attacks. From the south, we've seen the continuation, obviously, of the attacks from the Houthis, interrupting both the freedom of navigation in the Gulf of Aden coming up to the Red Sea, and also everything around that. Really a major obstacle to access to Europe, really, from the east through that Suez Canal. But what we're going to focus on today is the event of Saturday morning. On Saturday morning, Hezbollah terrorists fired an Iranian rocket at Israel's Golan Heights. The rocket landed on a football pitch where kids were playing. 12 kids were murdered, another 50 were injured. This is part of the massive attack that's been going on in Israel's north now for almost 10 months. As we said, it's day number 296. There have been thousands of attacks. And when I say attacks, I don't mean just one rocket shot every time. 2,470 plus attacks. In each attack, there could have been dozens, if not scores, of rockets. We're talking about somewhere in the region of 10 to 15,000 rockets, UAVs, that have been fired by Hezbollah, by Lebanon, into Israel over the last 10 months. There have been a number of casualties. 11 civilians before Saturday had been murdered, and 20 IDF soldiers. Israel has been responding, obviously, in a very limited way to those attacks, targeting the Hezbollah leadership, targeting the Hezbollah terrorists. We've seen, excuse me, over 385 Hezbollah terrorists attacked during that time and killed. Of them, 38 of the top leadership of Hezbollah. But the event of Saturday, the event of the 295th day of this war, will be a watershed event. Israel can no longer tolerate the attacks on our north. 60,000+ people have been evacuated from their homes over the last 9-10 months and remain wandering around Israel. But when Hezbollah attacks and murders our children, this is already something which cannot be tolerated. And Israel is now preparing, so the reports say, for a large-scale response to Hezbollah. It was only a matter of time until one of those Hezbollah rockets fell on our civilian population, and that was the expense. 12 innocent young children murdered senselessly, 50 people injured, and now we are on the precipice, really, of a tremendous response. And today, our special guest joining us is Dr. Aburukun. He's a researcher, Druze, part of Israel's Druze community, a researcher, an Orientalist, an expert in Middle Eastern affairs. He's also an educator and a tour guide in 3 different languages, in English, in Arabic, and in Hebrew. Dr. Aburukun, thank you for joining us today on our War Room.
Shalom.
Shalom, shalom. Dr. Aburukun, give us an idea of the sense in the Druze community, in the northern communities, of what's been going on over the last 10 months, what's been happening specifically also since the massacre on Shabbat?
It is a very sad event, that accident, you see, and we are angry, all the Druze community in Israel, including the Carmel and the Galilee and the Golan Heights. We are angry about this thing. It was very, very sad to have these things for children killed. They are not only going to the playground to play football. The Druze on the Golan Heights, about 20,000 people, only small community, living in 4 villages, Majdal Shams, the largest one, and Bukata, and in Kenya, and Masadi. They, since 67, they try to live in a peaceful way of life with the Israel government here since 1965. And part of them, they have relatives on the other side. So they have mixed identities, and they don't know exactly what will be the future, what will be tomorrow morning. After 1977, 78, 79, Mr. Sadat came to Israel, have a peace treaty, the treaty with Egypt, and they withdraw from Sinai and gave back Sinai to the Egyptian state. Since that time, the Druze on the Golan Heights, they ask themselves, what will be in the future with the Ramat Golan? What's the policy of the Israeli state? It's not so obvious for us if it will be going to be Israeli region, or to give it back to the Syrian government, Syrian state, as in Sinai for Egypt. So they have sensitive case in that time, and they live exactly on the border of the Syrian and the Lebanese borders. It's not easy for them to be from the one side, Israel. They don't have clear policy. According to the Golan Heights, during the Rabin government and the other Israeli governments, they came closer, about 90% or more, to have agreement with Mr. Assad, the father, on peace treaty with Syria. And the Druze on the Golan said, if we behave as Israelis, support Israel as a Druze in Israel since 1948, and Israel withdraw from the Golan Heights and became under the dictatorship regime there, it will be very difficult for us to come back on the years, tens of the years before that. So they, from one side, they behave in a peaceful way of life. They are not against Israel. Sometimes they have ideas, ideological Syrian identity for the Syrian state, part of them, but more than 90% of them, they're born as Israelis. Okay, most of them, they had the identity Israeli, but they don't show it to the media, because not to see it on the other side. So they try to be peaceful way community all the time, and to live with all the regimes, the governments, all the geographic, political changes here in the Middle East. The last Saturday, it was very, very sad accident, this thing that the Hezbollah terror organization bombed the city of the Majdal Shams and killed the innocent children ages 10 to 15 years old. They're playing their sport. It's not they have their place there. The region is very good for tourists and for sport, for hiking, for the Hermon Mountain with the snow in winter. It is a very peaceful region before the war with the Hezbollah border in Lebanon and Syria in the last months. So for this thing, they ask today, where are we, the state? Where are Israel? Assad will not help them at all. And the Druze inside Syria today, they are anti-Assad regime. Also in the south in Syria, Mount Druze Mountain, because they behave and deal with them bad behavior. So the last months they came, had some kind of revolt to change things. It's not easy at all. So for them, also the Druze in Lebanon, they haven't any assistance or help for the Druze on the Golan Heights. the Golan Heights, the Druze people, most of them, they integrated in the life of the state of Israel, and they study and work, have business in the Israeli cities, towns. They travel all over the country, freedom of faith, the democratic way of life. But the state of Israel did not make enough for them to defend them from the missiles and from the rockets from Lebanon or Syria. So they have a problem standing or living between two powers, two states, don't know when the problem will be solved at all. It's not easy, and Druze people support them on the Carmel, in the Galilee, on the Israeli cities, and we know also that the Druze in Lebanon and Syria, they are against the Hezbollah in this aspect, in this attitude, that they killed the innocent 12 children from them.
So I think, thank you very much for the introduction. I think it's just important, just for our audience, to get a little bit of a sense of numbers and what we're talking about. As of April this year, the Druze population in Israel numbered 152,000 people. Many of the Druze population serve in the IDF at all different levels. One of our, at the moment, one of our major generals, part of the general staff, the head of Kogat, is a member of the Druze community. I also had really the great honor to serve with many Druze officers and soldiers in the prosecution. Really a tremendous group of people. Some of the Druze community, it has to be understood, have joined with the Jewish people in the land of Israel really since the start of the state. I had one of my officers. We took the unit really to visit his home in Shfaram, and there we were presented with a special certificate that his grandfather had been given by David Ben Gurion as a thanks and of recognition of the Druze contribution to the establishment of the state of Israel. So really, we're talking about a bond between the Jewish community and the Druze community, which is as old as the state itself. And so it's somewhat paining to hear that some of the communities, albeit those that joined Israel a little bit later in 1967, still feel that they aren't necessarily an integral part of Israeli society. But that's, I think, a reality when you give that background, Dr. Aburukun, that the fear constantly that Israel will in some way relinquish the Golan Heights does create that possibly that question of identity. But it's specific to the Golan Heights and the Druze there, right? It's not the rest of the Druze community as well.
From one point, it's right. From the other point, in real life, the Druze people community on the Golan Heights, they like to live as the rest of the communities in Israel and in anywhere all over the world. So they like to live with the economy, with the social life, with the tourists, with the culture, with the science, with the go here and there. So it's open place, open country for them in Israel to have business and to study even to they get married with the Druze mates from the Galilee or the Carmel Druze communities. No problem with that. They are integrated, I can say, well in the life here, but at the same time, they like to keep their identity for the safety of the community, maybe in the future with the different changes in the geophysical changes in the Middle East. Don't know what will be in the future. I hope that they will become much more Israelis, but it is for them. We cannot influence them much to be Israeli because their own ideology, their identity, and their thing. But the Druze in Israel, it's a different case. 100 years before, during the British Mandate period, the Druze leaders, Jewish leaders, met and lived together, and they decided to live in peaceful way of life to create some kind of positive model coexistence in the state of Israel as Jewish state and with the other minorities, not Jewish minorities who live since 1948 here with the Jewish people, the Druze people prove that we can live in peaceful way with the Jewish people also as Israelis. We keep our identity as Druze identity, the faith and the traditions. At the same time, we are integrated better in the Israeli life than the other non-Jewish communities who don't go to the army or don't serve in the army, or part of them, they are anti-Israeli, have anti-Israeli policies and attitudes. But the Druze people say we have no conflict with the Jewish state, with Israeli state. We haven't national aspirations for state any place, not in the north, not in Lebanon, not in Syria, not in the state of Israel. Where we born, we have to be loyal to the state, to the field, to the government that we live in, at the same time to have the equal rights and duties. In this aspect, we have some problems. And all the Druze communities in the Middle East, their ideology say live and let others live. Because at the small community, we don't receive people from outside, no convert to the Druze faith. Since 1,000 years, we say live and let others also live, but in peaceful way of life. But all the Druze people, communities during the centuries, we defended ourselves. We do not attack anyone, but we defend ourselves in every place we are born. If we are born in a land, we have to defend it. Where we born, we like to live on this land and to die on this land. This is the main aspect of the Druze life. Also in the Israeli Druze communities, Carmel and Galil, and I believe also on the Golan Heights. And they like to live a better life. And they defended life also, a secure life. This is the main thing here.
What can you tell us maybe a little bit about the sense on the street, I won't say the Druze street, but really specifically in the area of Majdal Shams? What is the community expecting there from Israel? How are they dealing with this really tremendous tragedy? So many people, 4 kids from one family who were murdered. It's something which is almost unbearable to deal with. How does the community respond? I heard one of the leaders in Majdal Shams, if I'm not mistaken, the head of the municipality saying, we expect Israel to respond within 72 hours, and if not, we will know how to respond. What do you think the sense is on the streets? Where do we think this is going?
We have today different voices. One voice that you mentioned, that they hope and they believe that Israel will attack, will defeat, will to have a great battle in southern Lebanon, not only for the Druze people only and for Majdal Shams, also for the whole North Israel border with Lebanon. And other voices say, we wait, we will fight, we wait, we don't know exactly how things will be. But the people still angry, and part of them also, they have many questions with no answers from any other part of the Israel government or the Israel state. They cannot guarantee them that they will retaliate to the Hezbollah or others. Israel government told that they will retaliate or they will attack in southern Lebanon in time and the place that decide the prime minister and the defense minister decide when and how and all these things. But this not a solution for the Druze community on the Golan Heights. They like to, it's not kind of revenge, because Druze people don't like this Middle Eastern mentality to have revenge, but you killed the children. Who is responsible for that? If Hezbollah, you have to punish them. And the punishment has to be very, very strong punishment. I mean, even not only Hezbollah, it is came from the Lebanese borders, from the Lebanese country, Lebanese government. So we have to punish very difficult punishment for the Lebanese country and the Lebanese Beirut. Other forces say, okay, we must bomb Beirut also in order to settle all the problem. It must be very big, or then to have peace after that. But to have only retaliation on the northern border with Israel, once here, once there, and you have all these things, it is not enough. We have to have large war for a few days to bomb the cities and the Hezbollah and the state of Lebanon in the infrastructure that America and the European, France and the West Europe, they interfere and stop the thing and do anything like that. Even if Iran will shoot missiles from Iran here, we have to be ready to retaliate and to do the big war in order to have peace. If it's a small play like cat and small animals play together, this is not the solution. It has to be big war, then to have peace after that.
That's something.
So these are the voices that we hear also in the Druze communities in Israel here. We are very angry about the attitude of the state of Israel and the defense of Israel. They don't know, they don't do anything till now. It was from Saturday, today, nothing to do. When and what? These questions, we have the answers for them. Not for us and not for the Druze on the Golan Heights.
And that I can say that is something that we at the Jerusalem Center have been saying all the way along through the war, that we cannot tolerate these attacks from Lebanon, from Hezbollah, constantly at our north. We need to take that fight really back, and to ensure that in order to you achieve peace out of strength and not out of weakness. And it's something that in the meantime, Israel has been concentrating solely on the southern area, solely on the Gaza Strip, and really to a great extent, the north has been an open wound, constantly bleeding, constantly being attacked, where we now have almost a 10-kilometer strip on the northern border where most of our population has been evacuated. And that's something which I think that no country, no sovereign country would tolerate. As I said, anywhere between 10 to 15,000 explosive projectiles that have been fired at Israel. I think any country in the world would have responded in a much more forceful manner until now, and it's really it's quite a tragedy that we needed to get to an event in which so many children lose their lives before we actually take that fight back into Lebanon, take that fight back to Hezbollah. But I hear from you that that's also the expectation of the Druze population, who many of them haven't been evacuated from the north and are still in their population. It means that they will be under the rocket fire of Hezbollah, and they will also take quite a substantial pounding. Is that something that you think that the Druze community is ready for, is willing to endure?
Druze people all over the history in the Middle East, we did not become refugees. Not in 1948, not before that, not after that, not 67. All the non-Druze communities on the Golan Heights became refugees in 67, 68 war in the north, but the Druze people remain on their lands. This is one of our commandments in the faith, in the religion, to live and on the land that you were born in, and to defend this land, to defend this territory, and to die in the place that where you were born, to defend it. Now, to live in peaceful way of life, you have to defend the peace. You have to defend the peace. Even Israel, if it likes to live peacefully in the Middle East, she has to defend this peace. How we can defend this peace? By, from one hand, push hand for every country, every community who like to have peace with the Jewish Israeli state here. And from the other hand, we have to keep a strong army with all the weapons, modern weapons that we have. In the Middle East, we know some proverb says that if you not wolf, the wolves will eat you. I don't say that Israel will be wolf here in the Middle East. It has to be a lion. The lion to crush any enemy who comes to or think or do anything on the border to do any harm for Israel. Israel must live in peaceful way of life, and she must defend this peace by all the means. Strategic weapons, diplomatic weapons, international UN, America, Eastern, Western Europe, or other countries maybe do anything for this thing. But Israel has to retaliate for this accident on Saturday. And the Druze, most of the Druze, I think they expect from Israel to do this thing, this activity, this retaliation.
I think it's important to understand that the Druze communities in the north have really experienced this this war for the last 8-9 months, almost 10 months, and have really shown tremendous resilience, tremendous really sticking to, as you say, sticking to their land, sticking to their areas that they live in, refusing to become refugees, refusing to leave their homes. It really is really a certificate of courage to the Druze communities, because it is something which has constantly been a threat, constantly been a danger, and it's something which will only increase, I fear, in the near future. How will that, when you explained already the basic understanding of the Druze community, and really this really conflict almost of identities, not understanding where Israel is necessarily going, this will be a situation where the Druze community is standing up and saying, we're no longer tolerating this. We have seen our children murdered, and now we expect Israel to respond. Do you think that will put the Druze community in an awkward position, because they're now identifying clearly, wholly, totally with Israel? And I hope that we'll never give up on the Golan Heights again. But is there any type of intrepidation there?
Today, the things and the ideas too much complicated from different ideas. What will be, but there are some aspect which is religious or cultural or spiritual aspect in the Druze faith, telling the fate of man. They say, okay, we born here, we live here, we die here, but other aspect which is the metaphysical aspect, that the fate of man, the destiny of man, if it is written for us to be killed, to die in this period on this land, we accept this destiny, this fate for us. But as human beings, we have to do our best to defend ourselves in any means, if by ourselves or by the state in which we live here under the Israeli regime here or government. And it's right that today the Druze people in the land of Israel here, in the state of Israel, we haven't any force or any government or state which maybe help us in the future, except Israel. No Syria state, no Lebanese state. The Hezbollah and the Iranian influence, they govern the puppies there, Assad and others, and then the Druze, the centers of the Druze people in Lebanon and Syria, more than Israel. Israel is a small community, but it is not by quantity, it's by quality. In Israel, we are Israeli, okay, but also the other Druze communities, they hope and they try, if it's okay, maybe to ask for defense from Israeli state if they have real danger, and they have to do their best to live and to be or not to be in any way with other forces that playing in the Middle East and in the area. So Druze people, maybe with the medias, part of them, like other states or communities, part of them, they don't express themselves, don't say it clearly in the media. But when no media, they say between themselves, okay, we like to support Israel, that Israel support us and defend us. And they give us rights and to live as Israelis in economy, in society, in business, and in freedom to go here and there, a democratic way of life, as the rest of the communities. This is the attitude of them, and we have to wait in the future, coming future, near future, or after that, what will be the answer and the activities of the state of Israel and the government.
I think it's a very complicated reality, as you said. there are many different factors that guide and define our identities. But I think of all of the minorities in Israel, I think that the Druze population really stands out in its achievements so far, in its really integration within Israeli society. That's something which seems to be part of the Druze DNA.
You are right. You are right, because Druze ideology since 1,000 years, it says it is independent faith originated 1,000 years in Egypt and Cairo and spread in the Eastern Mediterranean countries, Israel, Lebanon, Syria, a little bit Jordan, and another part immigrated from Syria, Lebanon to America, North America, Latin American countries, Australia, European countries. But they say we emerged, have independent faith called the Druze faith. One of the founders was called Al-Darazi in that period, and the name connected to his name. Between the years 1000 and 1050, it was open for everybody to convert to this faith. So different peoples, nations, and tribes came inside, converted to this faith. Since the year 1050, it became secret one till now as the part of to be in this area as minority. We cannot live in the big cities. It was in Cairo, Egypt, but no single Druze today live in Egypt and Cairo. So our grandfathers, they choose to live up on the mountains as refuge for the minorities, and to keep it secret, because it was very difficult for us to spread this idea to live in peaceful way, to be democratic, and to push hand for peace for other nations and communities. We were persecuted much by the Ottoman Turks and by the Mamluk, but the governors of the area here, they say, you are unbelievers, you are heretics, and they try their best to bring back the Druze to the Muslim or to other religions here in the area. And they say, in spite to live, you must declare your loyalty to the Muslim, to the Ottoman, to the Mamluk, and other governors in the area here. Those people say, okay, they're obliged to show themselves for centuries. Part of the Arab Islamic world, we talk Arabic, no problem with that, but it's not Islam, not Judaism, not Christianity, because the faith itself, the religion itself, it is independent, it is separate from other religions. We have something to have joined together, something shared together with other religions, believe in God, believe in the moral aspects, moral values. But the ideology here is not to have national state. We haven't national intentions for to have state, and no religious sites in the big cities in Jerusalem or Mecca or other places. We haven't. Only the small religious sites in the Druze communities in Lebanon or Syria or Israel here. So the ideology here to try to live and give others live, to say live and let others live their way. Don't impose your faith or your ideology or politics even on others. You have to respect the differences between the communities, between the people in faith and ideology and politics. You can succeed to do that. We will create higher human society to live together, different communities. In my community here, small one called Sophia, we live Druze, Catholic, Christians, Maronite, Jews, Jewish, Muslim families, Russian, American families live together for a long time. We have created some kind of coexistence in the state of Israel as Israelis. All of us here were Israeli, talking Arabic, okay, but no political intention to have state or to be loyal to any other Arab state in the area. Here we are Israelis, we were born here, we like to be Israeli, to integrate well in the life of the state, and we prove it, that we can live here as Jews and non-Jews in this area since 1948. We prove it because in history, modern history, the last 100 years, we have records and we have proof letters between Jews and Druze leaders who accepted that since in 1948, no single Druze was refugee with the Palestinians. The Druze people remain on their lands, countries, and we did not have this problem. If we're the Palestinians behave like the Druze people, today we haven't any problem with the Palestinian problem. But they did not have. They rejected the state of Israel in 1947. UN resolution states clearly 2 states on the land of Israel, Palestine Arab state and Israel Jewish state. The Jewish people accepted this decision. The other side rejected it till now. Most of the people, okay, we have a peace treaty called peace with Egypt, with the Jordan, but it's not enough. So the rest of the Arab world, till they have extremist fundamentalist attitudes and ideologies, they reject all the non-Arab or the non-Muslim states or regimes or governments or states to nations to live in peaceful way here. This is the Israeli challenge today, how to defend the peace hope in the Middle East, how you can live as democratic state here and to keep equal duties and rights between the communities. Not easy, but we do our best to be integrated in this agenda. This is ideology in the Middle East here.
When you talk about fundamentalism, obviously it's impossible to ignore the Iranian influence on everything that's going on around us. The Iranian push to really create that circle of fire around Israel, Hezbollah being truly funded almost over 90% by Iran. They're the Iranian proxy, they're acting on Iran's behalf. The rocket that fell on the soccer pitch on Shabbat was an Iranian rocket. That whole Iranian push to really strangle Israel is something which is so clear that, and yet it's something which doesn't seem to be so obvious to everyone looking on. How would you suggest that Israel deal with also the threats coming from Iran saying, well, if you respond to the murder of these 12 children, well, we will join in and we will be attacking Israel as well? What would you say if you could speak to Prime Minister Netanyahu? What would you advise him to do?
Okay, the major conflict today in present time and in the future, it is a Sunni-Shia conflict. The Israeli-Palestine conflict, it is the small one. And the main conflict that the Iranian people, they declare it clearly that they like to emerge to found the Iranian empire, the ancient empire, on 2 pillars. The one, the Iranian race, and the second, the Shia ideology. The Iranian Shia, they are against the Sunni and the Arab. Mainly, after that, they say Israel and America and other countries. But mainly, this is the conflict which go back 13th century, since the year 681 Karbala battle, when the Bani Umayyah, they were Sunni, okay, and they killed Al-Hussein, grandchild of Muhammad. Since that time, they have the Shia Ashura, and they like to have, they were minorities in the history. But today in Iran, they are majority and they strong. They have a big country, strong country, and they clear it. They declare it clearly that they like to emerge and to build the new modern Iranian empire. This is the main conflict of the whole world, and more than Russia, America, or East and West, or this or that. It will be here in the Middle East. It is a problem for themselves and a problem for the West, for America, and for the rest of the countries. Even the problem for Russia and China, that the Shia-Sunni conflict, it will be the main one in the Middle East. And it is part of the challenges of Israel state here. Now, Israel must convince the West and America and other countries that this is the root of the problem. It's not only these small problems here and there, borders with things here, but the Shia and the Sunni conflict, if they did not settle, it will be a great and big war in the future. We don't know when, but it is 13 centuries. They fight each other. And no one will know what will be the coming future for this big conflict. For Israel, It is a small state, okay, but very strong one, but have the idea of the democratic and the freedom of man, freedom of faith, challenging the regimes that they have in democratic way of life, they have in the freedom for other minorities of other nations. This gap between the Israel Western state and society and the rest of the regimes, primitive dictatorship, go back many centuries. This is the gap. This gap, it is one of the roots of the Israeli-Arab conflict here, because the most of the Arab Muslim people here in the Middle East, they are physically model 2000, but the mentality model 1000 or 2000 years ago. So this mentality and go back to the old traditions and extremists, and to impose your faith upon others, and to say that you are the religion of the world and you have the ideology of the world, have to spread it all over the countries and continents. This is the main aspect, the main root for this thing. For Israel, we cannot fight all these ideologies or big wars, but we have to stay very strong country with the help, with the support of the Western democratics in the world, America and the Western world.
That really is. It's unbelievable to believe that within Islam, the world of Shia and the world of Sunni have been fighting each other for so long, and yet they seem to be almost united in their onslaught on Israel. Shia Iran joining with Sunni Hamas and Palestinian Authority. They seem to have bridged that gap when it comes to destroying Israel, but in nothing else. How do you explain that really tremendous ability to just concentrate on destroying Israel, even putting aside 1400 years of internal conflict?
For the Iranian ideology and policies, they support the small Sunni groups like Hamas. It's Sunnis, right? But they support it with the weapons and money and oil and all the techniques, okay? But it is a small group, but they support also the Shiite group, the Houthi in Yemen, or the Hezbollah in Lebanon, or the Alawi in Syria. They are Shiite Ismaili groups, communities. So they support them. But they use Hamas as means to fight Israel, okay, and to try to have the support of the Sunni countries, Egypt, North African, Arab Sunni countries, and Saudi Arabia, and the Emirates, and Jordan, and for the Palestinians, the Iranian exploit the Israeli-Palestinian problem, exploit it for their aims, and they support Hamas and the Palestinians from this point of view. But if no Palestine case or no Israel here, the Iran will defeat the Palestinians and the Sunni and not do anything against that. It is only to exploit them for their politics and for the strategy of the modern Iranian ideology.
As we almost wrap up the program for today, can you? I like to since we often discuss things which are complicated and sometimes not even so positive. I always like to leave on a positive note. How do you see really the covenant between the Druze and the Jewish communities continuing on in the next 5, 10, 50 years? Is it going in a positive direction, positive trajectory? Is this something that we're going to see more and more integration and really the growing prosperity of the Druze community?
Okay, I'll talk about the Druze in Israel because we have no relations with the Druze in Lebanon or Syria, and I'm not the representative of the Druze in Lebanon, Syria. They have their leaders, they have their lecturers, their speakers, and they have their attitude with the government there. Lebanon, they are Lebanese, and Syria, they are Syrians, okay? And we hope that they will solve their problems with the governments there, with the other communities. And now, the Druze in Israel, mostly, support the Israeli state, but we have some problems with the governments here, with the civilian life, with the rights of the people here. The young generation, they have problems for the home building houses and for the lands, for the equal rights in the citizenship in Israeli state here. If the Israeli government do its best to close the gaps here and to give us the full rights in the civilian life, it will be okay. There no problem. Other aspects of the Druze life, we have changed much since 1948. We were 90% agricultural farmers, cultivated the lands, primitive society with 15,000 people only. We grow much today, more than 152,000 people, and only 1 or 2% agricultural farmers. We had one student in 1950. Today we have more than 15,000 academic and students graduated from Hebrew, from the Israeli universities and from European and American universities. Even the Druze of the Golan Heights, before the revolt and Syria civilian war, 11, 12 years before, they studied in Damascus University. Many of them went there and they studied much there. Today, in rare cases, they don't go there, and most of them study at the Israeli colleges and universities, and this helped them to promote and to proceed much more to be integrated in the life of the state, at least socially and economic and sense and educational, cultural trend. So for the Druze people in Israel, it's not so much problem for us to convince and to behave as Israelis and to hope the Israel government will solve our problems. But for the rest of the Druze communities in the Middle East, we don't know for these things, and I don't like to say it's no need to intervene in their affairs. Also, Israel not have any interest to interfere in the interior affairs of the Druze communities in Lebanon or Syria or other places. Here we are okay. Most of the time we have some problems. We have to solve them in equal way and according to the Israeli law. This is what I am feel, and I hope that it will be okay and come to this solution.
So if I may use our humble platform to also call on the Israeli government to understand and promote the rights of the Druze population, to help really with the ideas of building, town planning. These are all subjects which need to be moved forward in a very positive direction. I know that the Minister of the Interior, Arbel, recently really took this subject under his wing and has appointed one of my friends, Issam Hamid, to lead that whole legal push for really providing the Druze population with the foundational infrastructure that they so deserve as loyal citizens of Israel, and something which I think that and I said to Asim that I would happily help with whatever I believe that we can push forward, really recognizing that bond between Israel and the Druze population. And it is something which I hope we will see moving forward very, very positively in the future. And I really do invite, if there's any Druze leaders out there and any of the population that feel that they need more support, they're happy to we're happy to invite them to turn to us and to promote those ideas, because it's something that we really do see as something of the utmost importance, integrating into Israeli society a group of the population that really are showing their excellence every single day on the battlefield, in the universities, in the education system, and it's something that really does need to be truly rewarded. Dr. Aburukun, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for giving us.
I like to present one last sentence, which is
Yes.
very important. The case of the Druze community in Israel, it is not only for the Druze people interest only. It is for the Jewish. Yes, it is for the interest of Israeli state, for the Jewish people in Israel and all over the world, to show the people of the world how we behave with non-Jews, with the minorities, because the Jewish people were, for 2,000 years, they were minority between the nations, and they were persecuted, and it was problems, much killing, persecution, and anti-Semitic, anti-Jewish, anti-Israeli ideology and politics against them for all these things. Now, in 1948, they joined the reasons they created the state of Israel and remained about 20% non-Jews, Arabs and others, Druze, Bedouin, Cherkessim, Christians, and it is not by accident. I mean, it is some kind of destiny or fate for the Jewish people, how the Jewish people today behave and deal with the non-Jews, the minority in Israel, in the racial way, discrimination, and equal rights, or in democratic way of life according to the Torah of Israel, the Nevi'im, Nevi'ai Israel, the kings of Israel, and the democratic way of the Bible and the people of Israel, how they deal and treat the minorities in Israel. It's very, very important also this case for the Jewish state Israel, and for in the future to show and to say to the West, to the world, hey, here we have people, non-Jews, but they are Israeli, and they support Israel as Jewish state, and they like to be equal in rights and duties. We hope to do these things. Thank you very much.
Without question, that is something that we really do need to work on, promote, and ensure that it actually happens for, as you said, not only for the benefit of the Druze, but for the benefit of Israel as a country and its entire population, Jews and Arabs alike. That is something obviously of the utmost importance. Dr. Aburukun, thank you again for joining us. Please stay safe in the event that really that Israel does respond to Hezbollah. We believe that it will possibly be much more dangerous for Israel's north. So just ensure that everybody stays safe, but to remember that we cannot allow the murder of 12 children to go unanswered, and that Lebanon as a country bears the responsibility for the actions of Hezbollah. In the media,
the majority of the Druze people, wait for this retaliation and for this big war against Lebanon to settle the problem, and then after that we will have peace.
And there I can say to you as well that it's not just the Druze population. It's something that many of the Jewish population has been advocating for many, many months now, and we hope to see that come to fruition. Obviously, no one likes warmongering, and we're not warmongering. That's not the idea. We're pushing for the ability to maintain the peace, but once peace can only really be achieved when you have destroyed these genocidal terrorists. So thank you again, and we will be back with you again on Wednesday. In the meantime, everybody, please do stay safe, and goodbye for now. Thank you very much.
Goodbye. Shalom, shalom.